Welcome to another edition of Last Week I Watched. Same deal, I watched 3 things, and let's talk about them. I'm gonna start by talking about the Academy Awards, the 94th Academy Awards. I'm gonna not talk about the Will Smith, Chris Rock incident, because quite frankly, I'm a little sick of it, okay? Jeez, I feel like I can reenact the whole incident just verbally, you know what I'm saying? Just the show as a whole, what did I think of it? What did I think of Amy Schumer, Regina and Wanda Sykes as hosts? They were fine, I guess. It reminded me of when Tina Fey and Amy Poehler hosted the Golden Globes. It was like, sure, they did the bare necessity. It was nothing special. One might argue that the hosts should be nothing special because it should be about the award winners. As far as this Academy Awards, it wasn't really about the award winners, so the hosts were mediocre. Like I predicted, there was going to be a lot of talk about politics, and there was. There was a Ukraine tribute. There was jokes about the Don't Say Gay bill. Not that I disagree with any of these political sentiments. I don't really make my politics known all that much, but I don't think the Academy Awards is a place for politics or fashion or knickknacks, paddywhacks, whatever have you. It's a place to celebrate movies. And I saw all the Best Picture nominees as well as other movies that were celebrated there, like Being the Ricardos, that wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but I still watched it anyway. The whole thing was just a bit, I was doing a live stream for it and I wasn't really interested. I was just much more invested in what was going on in the chat than the actual show itself. There was that whole bit where Amy Schumer dressed as Spider-Man and Wanda Sykes dressed as King Richard, and it was like, sure. One thing I thought was really weird is that they decided to open with a whole King Richard thing. I feel like the whole show was disproportionately King Richard oriented. It opened with like a Beyonce musical number about King Richard. It felt like a lot of King Richard lobbying was going on that night, which makes it all the more unfortunate that Will Smith decided to slap a person, because I'm sure the studio that lobbied for a lot of King Richard tributes was not happy that that overshadowed. I was actually watching the Academy Awards back when Heath Ledger won for Best Actor. I get recommended those little clips on YouTube of stuff like that. And one thing they did, and I was like, oh my god, it got so different. When that year happened, they went over each of the nominees. Josh Brolin was nominated for Milk that year, and someone stood up, a well-known actor, I think it was Richard Gere, stood up, talked about why his performance was good, explained to the audience why he is being celebrated as a nominee, and then so on and so on. They had Cuba Gooding Jr. talking about Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Tropic Thunder, and I think it was Christopher Walken talking about another nominee, and they're just explaining, this is why this performance is good. And I feel like the Oscars show, it's like so slow yet so fast paced, especially this year, how they decided to edit in the like Best Editing Awards and Best Cinematography Awards and all that stuff. It just felt very fast paced. It had no room to breathe. To be honest, there's some decisions they did that I think were pretty neat. I like the fact that they just made a category for Best Sound instead of Best Sound Mixing and Best Sound Editing. I always thought it just should be one big category. But yeah, just like it felt not film focused. It's the Academy Awards that should be celebrating film. It shouldn't be celebrating politics, celebrating celebrities, celebrating fashion, what have you. And overall, was it an entertaining show? No, not really. To all the people who were on the internet who were like, damn, I wish I was watching the Oscars just so I can see the Will Smith slap. You got to see it on the internet, man. It's the same thing. I had to sit through the whole show and it was pretty boring. My idea for the Academy Awards, someone came to me and said, Paul, you're in charge of the Academy Awards this year. What do you do? I would say, well, my friend, this is what I'd do. I'd have Mike Myers and Dana Carvey host, or something along the lines of that, like an Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves, or just like a known comedic duo, and they're just going through each of the departments of filmmaking, maybe interviewing Roger Deakins for cinematography and be like, hey, what makes for good cinematography? Because a lot of people don't know what goes into making a good looking film in terms of cinematography? Or what if they went to like an editing bay and showed the different components of editing, especially if you're editing on film? That could be really interesting to watch. So maybe just have that comedic duo visit different departments of film and make it like an adventure almost. But there was none of that, you know? I was especially turned off from the very first second there was that Beyonce musical number. And I remember back when Neil Patrick Harris hosted, at least he did a musical number celebrating all the movies, which it should be that. As far as which movies won and was I happy, I'm happy Troy Kotsur won for Best Supporting Actor. Of the 5 nominees, I think he was the most deserving. I don't think Will Smith was the best of the 5 nominees. I thought Denzel Washington was for Macbeth. I haven't seen Eyes of Tammy Faye. I can't judge Jessica Chastain's performance. The problem I also have with the Oscars is that they give the same movies so many nominations. And I can understand like a technical movie like Dune. The reason that got a lot of nominations, it's obvious. It's the same reason why Return of the King, back when it was nominated, had tons of nominations, because it was such a technical movie. So of course it's gonna get nominated for sound, cinematography, visual effects, editing. Like, those are given, so I understand that. But it's just, I wish more films were celebrated. Yeah, that's what I thought about the Academy Awards. I don't think I'll be watching next year's. I watched this year's Academy Awards because I knew it was gonna be a shit show, but unfortunately, it wasn't quite the shit show I was expecting. I'm not against the idea of the Oscars. In this day and age, it's important to have a program to kind of direct the viewer's attention, because they have like stimulus coming from everywhere. They got YouTube, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus. It's like, okay, you gotta tell the audience, this is what you're gonna watch. This movie is being celebrated. This is why you should watch it. As far as that goes, like, I don't think any viewer is really interested in any of the movies nominated for the Oscar as far as like the promotion of those movies. So it kind of failed at what it was set out to do. Alright, enough talking about the Academy Awards. I watched 2 other movies. Let's talk about them. Second thing I watched was an exploitation flick starring Christopher George. The film is called Grizzly. Have you seen Jaws? You've seen Grizzly. It's the exact same movie. You have different people trying to kill a grizzly bear that's causing havoc in this little camping grounds. And I wasn't really that big into it, but it did have its charm. It had its 70s exploitation charm. It had cute girls, it had blood, it had guts, it had a cool male lead in Christopher George, who I love Christopher George with his gritty ass voice. He's a fucking manly man, you know what I mean? He's oozing with virility. I dig that shit. It passed the time. I don't see myself ever watching this movie again. It did its trick. One thing I did notice watching this movie is I really liked the way the women looked. Hollywood has become so much plastic surgery and facelifts and eyebrow lifts and lip injections and nose jobs and boob lifts and ass implants and all that stuff. The women in this movie, they were hot chicks, obviously. They just casted women because they were hot. But yeah, they were just so fucking beautiful in this movie. I was popping chubs left and right. But they just looked like normal people. Like, they looked like a very hot person that you would just see at a bar someday. Like, they looked human. Girls out there, be proud of your bodies, you know? Be proud of the way you look. You underestimate how much guys are horn dogs sometimes. You don't need to do the eyebrow lift and the tummy tuck and the butt implants. All the women in this were very beautiful. What am I talking about? I'm a misogynist. I should be talking about the movie. The special effects are pure garbage, even for a movie of its time. But every time the bear would appear, you would just see a man with like a bear glove slap someone, and then it would cut to a bear doing and then back to the gloved hand slapping someone. There's a cool scene in here, I will say, that a bear is trying to like knock a watchtower down, and he's like just like fucking rattling the watchtower. As far as animal wrangling goes, you don't see movies with real grizzly bears anymore, so they had the balls to do it. It probably wasn't a grizzly bear, it was like maybe some less dangerous bear, like a black bear that they spray painted. I don't know what was the deal going on there. I watched it with my dad, we were entertained, but I just don't see myself ever watching this again. It's exploitation. You watch it, you consume it, you poop it out. But much more interesting than Grizzly, I watched the fantastic movie Mona Lisa. and this is the best movie I've seen in a long, 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 long time. Directed by Neil Jordan, written by Neil Jordan. Neil Jordan is known for doing The Crying Game, and I had seen The Crying Game as a child. My mom made me watch The Crying Game because she did not expect that twist ending. I'm not gonna spoil that twist ending in case you don't know it, but it was pretty controversial for its time, to say the least. And this is the same kind of thing. Crying Game is like about this kind of seedy underbelly kind of vibe, and this is about Bob Hoskins. He plays like this gangster who just got out of jail, and he's more of like your traditional gangster doing kind of mob stuff. And he comes out of jail, and it's the mid to late 80s, and everything has become kind of cocaine and prostitution. Needless to say, the game has changed a lot for him, and he's tasked with basically becoming the pimp of this black prostitute. And it was a very fantastic movie. I love this movie so much. Basically, Bob Hoskins is stuck in his old ways, and he's driving around this black prostitute. He doesn't know how to communicate to her because A, she's younger, and B, she's from a different kind of class of people, and there's a lot of conflict going on there. Doesn't really feel hammy at all, but it's more about a guy who's losing touch with the times, and everything is becoming more dark and depressing, and he's just caught in his own ways. Once he's driving around this prostitute, he starts to kind of fall for her, and there's a unlikely kinship that develops between these two characters. And then he's tasked with having to save her friend, who is a child and a victim of child trafficking, and he's going around the city trying to find this child. And it's a very dark movie, it's a depressing movie, but it's oozing with atmosphere. That seedy underbelly vibe, the neon lights, the dirty sidewalks. Michael Caine is in this movie, he plays the main antagonist, and Michael Caine is so like unlikable in this movie. He pulls tantrums left and right. Also, the great Robbie Coltrane is in this movie, who people might know as Hagrid from Harry Potter. Feels weird to see him without the beard and a little younger, but that goes for basically the whole cast of this movie. Fantastic movie. I'm gonna spoil the ending, so if you're interested in watching this movie and you haven't seen it already, just stop the video here, go watch the movie. So yeah, the black prostitute is played by Kathy Tyson, and we find out that she's actually romantically involved with the child who's a victim of the trafficking. And Bob Hoskins is very short-tempered at first. He's going around kind of pulling her. He's very angry at her, tries to beat her up at a certain point. Then he kind of notices that males have been so toxic to this woman's life, and he kind of has to take that maturity jump. I thought the movie was fantastic. It's very beautiful, very beautifully made. There's songs by Genesis in this movie. It really fits the film well, even though I'm not that big into the band. Genesis has like that synthy vibe that I'm not usually into. Just a very solidly told crime movie that had a point, had a message about the way women are treated in society, especially in the 80s where prostitution was rampant. I can't praise this movie enough. This is the best movie I've seen in a long time. It's available on Criterion. It's also available to watch on HBO Max, which is how I watched it. So yeah. Watch Mona Lisa. Fantastic fucking movie. Well done. So, highly recommend Mona Lisa. Certified dank. Grizzly. Exploitation. It is what it is. And yeah, the Academy Awards were kind of poopy. Poop. Alright, I'll see you folks around.